welcome back to the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Sam Menzie, and we have a great show for you today. First topic we'll be going over is the Cubs having trade interest in the Blue Jays first baseman Vladimir Guerrero Jr., then going over some prospect call-ups, including Drew Thorpe getting called up by the White Sox, Hurston Waldrop getting called up by the Braves, and Adel Amador getting called up by the Rockies. And finally, recapping the notable series from over the weekend, the London series for the Mets and the Phillies, and then the illustrious Yankees and Dodgers series. Before we do all that, I'd like to ask you to please like and follow the show. We do get a number of questions from viewers, so to ensure that your question does get read on the air, please do the link gsmcpodcast.net. It really does help the show, and it really does mean a lot, so thank you so much for that. And let's get back into the show today. All right, so first topic we're going over, as I said, is going to be about Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and the trade interest from the Chicago Cubs. So, yeah, let's get into it. So, it was reported over the weekend from Bob Nightingale of USA Today in his Sunday column about just rumors around the league that the Cubs have privately discussed trading for Blue Jays first baseman Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Now, I don't know if this is really an entire surprise, as I'm sure a lot of teams discuss talking about trading for players all the time, whether they're available or not. But it does bring up an interesting situation because we have heard some rumors about Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in the past few weeks, and I think this is kind of just building onto it. So I did want to get on here and talk about my just overall thoughts on it and what I think of it. So, yeah, I just thought it was very interesting, and yeah. So, first of all, Guerrero's having a great season with Toronto so far this year, having a weighted runs created plus of 136, so having a very, very solid season. And it's in a year where a lot of batters, a lot of position players are underperforming their usual statistics. Vladdy has done very, very well and has been very consistent for an otherwise pretty underwhelming Blue Jays team. Now, I think overall it is showing that Guerrero's trade interest is probably going to be at the highest it is ever going to be because he is having such a great season, and it is realistic at this point that he could be traded. Now, the fit on the Cubs, just talking about it here, I think would be a pretty interesting fit. I think, first of all, first base is definitely a position that is of need to the Cubs. I think that is very clear. Right now, they do have Cody Bellinger there, which is good for the defensive positioning at first base, but I just don't know if that's really what you want out of a first baseman. You want more of a hitter, and that's what Vladdy is. I don't think there's a huge discrepancy between the hitting between Bellinger and Vladdy, but I do think Vladdy is better. He's younger, and he has more control, so that's an interesting situation there. But I just think overall adding Vladdy would be just adding a big bat to this Cubs team, which I do think they need. I think whether he plays first, whether he plays DH, I mean, he could even play third. I doubt it, but hey, he played it with the Blue Jays this year, so anything's possible, I guess. But I think that overall it's going to be very interesting to see if he does get traded to the Cubs, where he would play. But I think that overall this fit for the Cubs makes a lot of sense on paper. Again, I think the Cubs need another big bat. They have some good pieces there, like Cody Bellinger, like Seiya Suzuki, but after that, there's no one really that consistent. You, of course, also have Dansby Swanson and Nico Horner, but I think Vladdy would be the other big power bat in this lineup with Bellinger and also with Suzuki, if you want to consider him a power bat. So I think Guerrero would be a great fit for this team and would honestly make a lot of sense. I think that's why they're discussing trading for him. And I think first base has been a little bit of a hole for the past few years. Yes, you're playing Bellinger there, but Bellinger can play the outfield as well. He has other versatility. You also can put him there to get some other people's days off. You can, put him at DH. And, before Bellinger was at first base, he was playing center. Obviously, Pete Armstrong is playing center now, but before that, you had Michael Busch, who's good. He's had a really good season for them, actually, but I just don't know if he's a long-term answer, and he also has more versatility in the first base, so he could be a player of interest to them just because he can play all around the diamond. And first base is kind of a hole for them. I mean, just a few years ago, they had Alfonso Rivas playing significant minutes for them at that first base position. So overall, I think that Vladdy coming to the Cubs, potentially getting an extension as well, would help out getting a long-term fit on this Cubs team and really would help out here with this team getting a new power bat. I think it would make a lot of sense that way. Now, the question is, are the Blue Jays going to trade him? This conversation is great to have, but it's meaningless to discuss if there's no chance the Blue Jays to trade him. Now, I don't think I'd ever be saying this, but I think there is a chance that the Blue Jays do trade Vladdy. If I was in charge of the Blue Jays, I would trade him, to be perfectly honest with you. I think that the Blue Jays are very close to becoming the MLB's version of the Chicago Bulls, or the MLB's version of the of the New York Islanders. Two teams that, if you watch the NBA or watch the NHL, you know are very mediocre, just stuck in their ways. Are not bad enough to get a high draft pick or a impact prospect to help out the organization, but not good enough to actually be a championship contender or make a long run in the playoffs. I think that's currently what's happening with the Blue Jays. I think if they continue with this core, they're going to be very close to that. And trading one of your stars, even as painful as it might be, as he's homegrown, a son of a Canadian baseball legend, of course his father, Vladimir Guerrero Sr., a Hall of Famer, as painful as it would be because of the storylines, because of just, again, how good of a player he is, because of how marketable he is, you might have to do it. And I think trading him would signal to Blue Jays fans that, we're fed up as well. We want something new. We want a breath of life in this organization. And getting a top prospect for Guerrero, I think, would make a lot of sense. And would, again, maybe breathe new life into this organization. So that is something that I think could be a possibility here. And it is something I'm looking at. Now, the question is, do I think the Blue Jays will trade Guerrero? Honestly, no. I don't think so. But I also think it's 60-40. 40% they trade him, 60% that they don't. Because they are in the situation where they are right now, where they're last in the NL East, and they're pretty significantly out of the playoffs right now, I think they do have to think about it, and they know that. But I just don't know if they'll actually go through with it because, again, of how much he is a face of that franchise. But hey, if the Cubs offer them a package that they can't say no to, are they really going to say no? That's what you have to ask. I mean, the Cubs have an amazing farm system. They have Cade Horton, Owen Cassey, Matt Shaw, Kevin Alcantara, James Triantos, Moises Ballesteros, Jefferson Rojas, and, of course, Pete Armstrong, who just graduated from the prospect list. Those are all significant prospects. I mean, in MLB Pipeline right now, my preferred prospect sheet, they have seven prospects in the top 100. And that's with, again, Pete Armstrong just graduating from the list and probably being a top 100 guy if he didn't graduate. So they have a lot of prospect capital. And if you're the Blue Jays looking to trade Guerrero, is there really a better team than this? So if I'm the Cubs, obviously you're not giving up Cade Horton or an Owen Cassey, a Matt Shaw for a Guerrero. I don't even think you'd give up Kevin Alcantara, but a guy like James Triantos, Moises Ballesteros, Jefferson Rojas, one of these guys who are lower on the Prop 100 but still significant prospects, I think will make a lot of sense to go to Toronto. I think it will be a fair trade, and it would make a lot of sense. Again, Guerrero isn't just a rental. He has a year after this as well, a full year. You can, if he does well in this half year that you trade him for as well, you can extend him. You can extend him in the offseason. So it's going to be very interesting to see. And maybe they don't trade him now, but they trade him later, and the Cubs show interest. So I think overall it does make a lot of sense for the Cubs to show interest in Guerrero. I think he's a really great fit on this team, baseball-wise, off the field-wise. A guy like Guerrero going to a big market would make a lot of sense because, again, of how marketable he is, because of who his father is. So I think that would make some sense as well. So overall, I think this makes a lot of sense. I don't know if the Blue Jays are willing to trade him, but if I'm the Blue Jays, I definitely look into it. Again, I'm not actively shopping him, but I'm definitely listening to offers for people who call, and believe me, there will be a lot of people calling, so that would be interesting. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see if the Blue Jays do move on and if the Cubs continue to show interest in Guerrero. After that, I also think Pete Alonso is also a pretty great fit for this Cubs team, another power-hitting first baseman. Alonso only is a rental, of course, so that is kind of a question mark. And the Cubs right now aren't doing the greatest. I mean, they have fallen all the way down in their standings right now. They were at the top of the NL Central for a little bit, now have fallen to second, but are tied, still, even though they're in second, they're a half game out of being in last, and they're 2 games under 500. They still are in the playoff picture, which is crazy because of how bad the NL is this year, but are they really going to go all in this year and buy? With Guerrero, it's also for next year as well. You also get him for next year. If you're getting a guy like Alonso, that's really only for this year because you don't really know how likely it is to extend him. So that could be interesting. The thing with the Cubs is, I think there are a lot of more positions that you have a need at than first base. I think catcher is one of them. I don't like who they have a catcher right now, and I'd look to upgrade there. I also think some other positions, maybe like third base, you could also look to upgrade, getting an outfield bat. But overall, Guerrero is a great player still, and it's not like you couldn't use a first base upgrade. It would allow you to have more versatility with the entire lineup, including Bellinger. Sorry about that. So that would be interesting. And yeah, I think overall this would be a good move for the Cubs to make. Of course, you're getting a great player. And if I'm the Blue Jays, I really think about it with where the franchise is right now. So yeah, that was our first segment for today, talking about the Cubs eyeing Blue Jay star Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and just talking about my thoughts on it and what I think it'd be a good move. We'll be moving into our second segment now, which is going to be talking about Drew Thorpe getting called up by the Chicago White Sox over the weekend. I'm going to tell you guys this is a very heavy prospect show. There was a lot of prospects being called up over the weekend, and I did just want to talk about them. So yeah, if that's your thing, stick around, and if it's not, still stick around. So yeah, we talk about that, and we'll see you after the break. So thanks, and bye.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
And we're back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our second segment. But before that, I would like to ask you again to please like and follow the show. We do get a number of questions from viewers, so to ensure that your question does get read in the air, please use the link gsmcpodcast.net. It really does help the show, and it really does mean a lot, so thank you so much for that. And let's get back into the show for today. All right, so we're moving into our second segment, as I talked about before, which is talking about Drew Thorpe getting called up by the Chicago White Sox. And yeah, just my overall thoughts on it. So yeah, there we go. So Thorpe is one of the top prospects in all of Major League Baseball, and of course for the Chicago White Sox. Now, if you don't know Thorpe's story, it is very interesting. He was not a real high prospect for the Yankees coming when he got drafted by them. Really wasn't a guy that was highly sought after, but made his way throughout the minors, was very, very dominant, and ended up becoming one of the top pitching prospects in baseball with them. He was a second-round pick, so it wasn't like he was fifth or sixth round, but still wasn't really that highly sought after. But did a really nice job with the Yankees organization, climbing through the minors and becoming one of the top pitching prospects in baseball. Then, once Juan Soto was mentioned in a lot of rumors with the Yankees being traded there, of course he got traded there. Now we know Thorpe was mentioned in most of those talks, if not all, and basically was said that he would be one of the few players that if Soto was traded to the Yankees would need to go back to San Diego, and of course he did, and was arguably the centerpiece of that entire trade. The Padres loved this guy and thought he was going to be a really great future pitcher. But after just around 3 short months after, the Padres themselves traded Thorpe to the Chicago White Sox for Dylan Cease. So overall, it seemed like he was kind of part of a unofficial 3-team trade, with the Yankees getting Juan Soto, the Padres getting Dylan Cease and Michael King and some prospects, and then the White Sox getting, of course, Drew Thorpe and some prospects. So it was an interesting turn of events for Thorpe and what we thought would happen with him with the Padres, but looks to have found a home here with Chicago, and yeah, has really risen through the minors again and done a great job. He was called up straight from Double-A to the White Sox team, is going to be making his first MLB start tomorrow. So we'll be talking about that either tomorrow or Wednesday. I have to check what time the game is and what happens with that. But yeah, so looking at Thorpe here, since the start of the 2023 season in the minor leagues, where he was at A+ ball in Double-A, he's thrown 200 innings, having a 2.17 ERA, 238 strikeouts, and only 55 walks. Opponents have hit just 138 against his changeup in that span, with a 50% zone whiff percentage. So that basically means 50% of the time, 50% of the time that his changeup was thrown in the zone, people whiffed on it, so that's pretty incredible. Obviously, Thorpe's main pitch is his changeup, and that is one of the reasons why so many people love him as a prospect and think of him so highly. Now, looking at some statistics about his changeup and just overall, digesting it. So, looking at his other pitches as well, he has a 91 mile per hour fastball with a 19-inch vertical and a 6.3-inch release. 82 mile per hour changeup, 18 inches of vertical, which is great for a changeup. He also has an 86 mile per hour cutter and a slider, and he had a 1.35 ERA at AA. So what we know about him is that with his windup and how good his pitches are, it's going to be very difficult to distinguish between his fastball and his changeup. And I think that overall is going to make for a great pitcher at the major leagues. And I really, really do like this guy. I think that overall there's a lot of potential in him. I think the White Sox know what they're doing with him. They obviously wanted him very badly because you didn't have to trade Dylan Cease, but they wanted Thorpe, so they ended up pulling the trigger. Got some other great pieces as well, but Thorpe was definitely the main part of it. So the reorganization thought very highly of him in just 1 year, going from all three of them obviously. So there's obviously something within him that people like and people see. So I think that overall Thorpe is going to be a very, very good pitcher in the major leagues for a long time. And it's going to be a big part of this White Sox team until they trade him in 5 years because their owner is very cheap. So you look at his scouting grades. His fastball gets a 50, which is fine. His slider gets a 55. Okay. His changeup gets a 70, which basically means elite. And his control also gets a 60. So he's more of a changeup control kind of pitcher than more of a blow you away with his fastball. His fastball's still good, but it's not exactly his 1A pitch. That really, again, is his changeup, which is why you want him. So I think that overall he's going to be a very, very great pitcher at the major league level and is going to end up being a massive contributor to the future of this White Sox team and this White Sox team this year as well. I'm very excited to watch him, and he's done a great job of getting his stock up there as one of the top pitching prospects in baseball. And yeah, just very excited to watch him. And things might look bleak for the White Sox right now, and believe me, they are. I've had them ranked number 30 in my Friday power rankings for, I believe, 3 or 4 weeks now. So it's not exactly like I think they're an amazing team, because they're not. But there is still a lot to like about this White Sox future, and I think that the light at the end of the tunnel is there at least. It may not be close, but it's there. Looking at the prospects in this organization, you of course have a guy I've talked about a lot in the show, Colson Montgomery. Of course, a 22-year-old lefty, sweet swinging shortstop prospect in AAA. Should be up at some point this year. I'd say maybe a few weeks to a month. I think he's going to be up very shortly. And this is a guy that looks to be someone you build a franchise around. Amazing stats in the minor leagues in 2023 over three different teams in the minor leagues. He had an OPS near 1,000. Continuing his consistency, even though he got moved throughout the minor leagues. Hasn't gotten off to an amazing start this year with an OPS barely over 700, but still is settling in for this year, I think, and I'm not worried. He's got great contact, great power, fields very well, and has great defense, has great speed. So, yeah, I think Montgomery is someone that you look at as a future face of the White Sox organization. I think this is a guy that really brings a lot to the table as a prospect and as a future player for this team. So very excited to see what ends up happening with his future. And yeah, really, really excited to watch him. And again, future looks bleak now, but you have guys like him going through the minor leagues, and that's a big piece there. You also, of course, have Noah Schultz, who is probably a better pitching prospect than Drew Thorpe, and how much I've talked about Drew Thorpe, he's great. Schultz is a 20-year-old lefty pitching prospect. An Illinois native as well, so I'm sure it's very cool for him to be able to go with the White Sox and stay in the Illinois area in Chicago and play there with the major leagues. So this is another guy that is a great pitching prospect, has insane stats throughout the minor leagues, has some amazing stuff as a tall lefty pitcher, 6'9", 220, an imposing presence on the mounds, another great pitching prospects for this White Sox team. So again, that's a big piece. Again, of course, Drew Thorpe. You also have Edward Guerrero, who came over from the Lucas Giolito trade last year from the Angels, has become a top prospect within the major leagues and is looking to be the future catcher of this White Sox team. And so again, there aren't a lot of guys here that are going to make you excited for the future, there's still a good amount. You still have guys that you look and can say, okay, in 5 to 7 years when I'm watching this team, these guys are going to be stars. They're the guys I'm going to be rooting for. You, of course, already have Garrett Crochet. You have Luis Robert. You have Eloy Jimenez. How long are these young star players going to be on the team for? I'm not sure. Will they be traded by July 31st? It's very possible. So I don't want to exactly make them part of your core, but let's say you keep Crochet. You now have a top 3 in the future, in probably the next 2 to 3 years, of Crochet, Thorpe, and Schultz. That's really, really great. You have your franchise shortstop in Colson Montgomery. You will have a franchise center fielder in Luis Robert. And maybe if you ever spend money, you'll get to add some players to this talented team. So it's very, very exciting to see some of the players of this White Sox team come up. And look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. You guys are horrible right now. You're the worst team in baseball by far. But you have at least some hope, and you at least see the fruits of your labor of being horrible coming up, and you should at least get excited about that. So I think Drew Thorpe getting called up by the White Sox does show a little bit more of a positive side of this White Sox franchise and team, and you should at least be excited about watching one of the top prospects in baseball pitching. I know I will be. I'm excited to watch him on Tuesday. Watch that changeup. Very excited to see it. So, yeah, I think that overall, again, things look bleak right now. They are bleak, but there's at least something to look forward to in the future with the White Sox, and I think Drew Thorpe getting called up does recognize that. So, the White Sox game on Tuesday is going to be at 9:40, so that's at night, so we'll be probably talking about it on Wednesday. He'll be playing Brian Wu, so of the Mariners, so a nice matchup there of 2 good young pitchers. So I'll be watching that, and yeah, so that is the second segment here, talking about Drew Thorpe getting called up by the Chicago White Sox. We'll be moving into our third segment, which is going to be talking about Hurston Waldrop getting called up by the Atlanta Braves. Again, another top pitching prospect getting called up by his team. Again, wanted to talk about it, and there were a lot of prospects being called up over the weekend. So yeah. So we talk about that, and we'll see you after the break. So thanks, and bye.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
And we're back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our third segment, which is going to be talking about top Braves prospect Hurston Waldrop getting called up by the Atlanta Braves and just the overall impact he is going to have on this Braves team. So let's get into it. So now over the weekend, it was confirmed that Hurston Waldrop would be called up by the Atlanta Braves and would be making a start. That start did already happen, as it happened over the weekend, so we'll be, of course, mentioning that and talking about how he did do over there. So, yeah, let's get over it. So, quickly, on Sunday, he did play the Washington Nationals for his first MLB start, and he did go 3 2/3 innings, giving up 4 hits, 7 earned runs, 4 walks, a strikeout, and a home run. So, he now has an ERA of 17.18. Of course, it's one start. You're not going to take it fully into consideration in his career. I mean, it's his first MLB start. Now, maybe he should have done a little bit better against one of the worst teams in baseball in the Nationals, but again, it's his first start. I'm not exactly going to be judging his entire career off it. So, was it unfortunate? Yes, I'm sure that they'd like it to be better. I'm sure Waldrop would like it to be better, but it is what it is. He's still a guy who was only drafted last year and came straight from AA, so it's not exactly like he was fully seasoned. So, yeah, so Waldrop, I remember last year in the draft, watching the draft, and he was the guy I predicted to go in the top 15. And once he kept falling down, I thought it was very obvious that the Braves would take him. It just made too much sense. He's from Georgia. He grew up a Braves fan. He's a really good, talented prospect from a top college. a college that is known for MLB development. I mean, we just saw his alma mater, Florida. We just saw them yesterday go to move on in the College Baseball World Series. A great game, by the way, that I really had fun watching. Jack Cagliglione is a monster, but we're getting off track here. But Waldrop, it was very obvious once he kept falling, the Braves would take him. And watching the draft last year, they did. And I was mad, and a lot of baseball fans were mad because we kind of did the SpongeBob meme of you can't keep getting away with this, drafting all these great prospects and keep falling to them. And it was very unfortunate as baseball fans seeing this talented player go to such a great organization as the Braves. But at the same time, it made so much sense. And yeah, I was very beside myself when that happened. But still, looking at Waldrop, I see a really great future MLB player. Of course, one bad start isn't going to exactly take away my thoughts on him. I still think he's going to be really great, and I still really love his stuff. When you look at him, you really see mainly a three-pitch mix of fastball, slider, and splitter. His splitter is pretty good, and it's one of his better off-speed pitches, I say. His control does need a little bit of work, but like a lot of young, hard-throwing pitchers, all their control needs work, so it's not exactly like it's some huge thing to say it needs work. So, yeah, with Waldrop, he came over from southern Mississippi as a reliever, but did really well in that spot, and Florida saw him and thought he had potential to be a starter. He transferred over there and did very, very well, ended up getting into a first-round pick for them. He left college with a career 13.5 K per 9 rate, and then struck out 12.6 per 9 per game during his pro debut last summer. He has a splitter, which again is pretty unhittable. It's an upper 80s pitch that is very, very good, has a really high whiff rate back both in the Braves system and at Florida. So that's really great. Again, his fastball, he throws it very well with a lot of velocity, but also, again, it does need some control work. But again, as I said before, I said it about him, said about some other pitchers on the show as well. A young pitcher with a very good fastball is going to have control issues. It's not something new to just say that they are. So it's not really something that I take a lot of stock into and take a lot of consideration into. So yeah, overall, I love his delivery. I think it's very smooth and good. And yeah, I think he's going to end up being a great pitcher for this Braves team and is a really good prospect. And it was interesting that they did call him up directly from Double-A, but it seemed like they wanted to get Max Fried an extra rest day and move him back in the rotation, which is what they ended up doing with Waldrop getting called up immediately. So yeah, it was very interesting to see that. But yeah, so overall, again, his start wasn't great, but I think when you look at him as a prospect, you see star written all over him. And again, watching the draft last year, knowing about him, when he went to the Braves, you're like, oh, this again, especially as a Mets fan, as a fan of a team in the NL East, you're like, oh, the Braves, man. I mean, but it is what it is. So yeah, looking at the Braves, though, with Waldrop, I think it's going to be very interesting now to see what does happen with their pitching rotation. Of course, it's been very publicized that their star pitcher, their best pitcher, I'd say, Spencer Strider, is out for the entire year. No chance of coming back with some kind of elbow injury. A little less than Tommy John, but still, again, out for the entire year. No doubt about that. So you, of course, still have a decent rotation. You have Spencer. You, of course, have Max Fried, who is the ace now. You have Chris Sale, who's had a good season. Renato Lopez has had a good season. But after that, it's kind of iffy and just some depth pieces who aren't the best and are, again, kind of just meh. So calling up Waldrop, I think, is just a way for them to solidify that rotation more. Sorry about that. And just get more depth within it. And I think it was a good move to be able to do that. Was a little strange calling him up straight from Double-A. I thought he could have used a little more seasoning, especially getting drafted just last year. But if they thought he was ready, I'm not gonna really argue with them. It's the Braves, and they know what they're doing. So, yeah. But looking at this rotation again, Chris Sale will probably end up regressing at some point. He'll probably get hurt at some point because of just his history and how old he is. Renato Lopez, I think, will end up being a solid starting pitcher for the Braves, but I don't think he's going to continue to do this well. So really, if you're going into a playoff series against a good team, and at this point, I don't know how likely it is you're going to win that division, so you're going to have to go on the road. You're going to have to be a 4 or 5 seed. And, how likely is it that after Max Fried, you feel confident in your rotation? I don't know. I'd say it's not that high. So if you can get Waldrop in there this early, get him to be solidified the rotation, get him up to MLB standards. That helps your rotation a lot because he's very talented, and I think it would help your depth a lot. So then you would maybe have 2 starting pitchers that you would really trust. But looking at the deadline as well, I think that they are going to go heavy at a starting pitcher. We've heard some rumors about Zach Leflin of the Rays, Jesus Luzardo of the Marlins. Not sure how that would work because it's an in-division trade, but if Waldrop becomes a really good pitcher for them and becomes consistent, I think it would maybe not have them trade for a starting pitcher at the deadline. They wouldn't have to give up one of their prospects because their prospect pool isn't that deep, and I don't know if they can afford giving up some prospects right now. So I think Waldrop is going to play a big part in this Braves season because of the injuries they've had and because of the depth issues they have. So it'll be very, very interesting for me to end up watching what does happen here with Waldrop and what does happen with this Braves team. Again, the Braves are kind of looking a little vulnerable this year. You look at the Braves and you just think, wow, this team is invincible. What can't this team do with all the ways they've won with all the dominant ways they've won the division over the past few years, the dominant offensive core they've had for the past few years. But again, they're looking a little vulnerable right now, and they're looking a little bit like maybe it's the time to strike if you're a team in the NL. They've already had trouble in the playoffs since winning the World Series in 2021, getting embarrassing losses in 2022 and 2023. And without Acuna, without Strider, it's going to be interesting to see how they end up doing this playoffs. I don't know how big of an impact Waldrop is going to have. I think a good one, but not a significant one. And so overall, it's going to be a very, very interesting season for this Braves team to end up seeing what does happen with them. So very interested to watch and very excited to see. So yeah, that is our third segment here, talking about Hurston Waldrop getting called up by the Atlanta Braves, one of these top pitching prospects in baseball. We'll be moving into our fourth segment, which is going to be talking about Adel Amador getting called up by the Rockies. Again, another piece of prospect news. A lot of prospects were called up over the weekend, and I did want to talk about them. So yeah, we'll be going over it, and we'll see you after the break. So thanks, and bye.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Welcome back to Welcome back to the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our fourth segment, which is going to be talking about Adel Amador getting called up by the Colorado Rockies, one of the top prospects in baseball. So yeah, let's get into it. So Adel Amador is, of course, one of the bright spots for this Rockies organization, a guy who I have talked about on the show as well. Whenever I talk about the Rockies, I get to mention him because, I like him a lot. I think he's a really good hitter, and just a really good piece of this Rockies team. So sorry, I keep coughing, but I don't know. Yeah, so with Amador, you have a switch-hitting 21-year-old infielder, was signed in 2019 by the Rockies, already a fast riser, making it to the big leagues already. Got a hit in his first swing in the major leagues, also played over the weekend versus the Cardinals, so did a nice job there in that series and showed off his talent. With Amador, he's 6'2", 200, so nice size for a middle infielder. I think this is a guy who profiles more as a second baseman than a shortstop in the future, but has versatility there. You've already extended your supposed shortstop of the future in Ezequiel Tovar, so I don't really think that Amador is going to end up being the shortstop anyway. So looking at Amador, he was one of the top international players on the market in 2019 and 2020 for the signing period. He got a $1.5 million bonus to join the Rockies. And right out of the gate with the Rockies was a really, really good hitter and performed very, very well within the professional organization. He has had some injury risks down in the minor leagues, breaking a hamate bone in his right hand for 2023, but overall has been pretty consistent outside of that. You look at Amador, he's more of a contact hitter than a power hitter, but also the power isn't that bad. I mean, it's still a 45 grade, so it's not horrible. You look at him in the minors, he tore up A-ball, he tore up rookie ball, tore up A-ball, did really well last year in 2023, played for three different minor league teams and did very, very well with his OPS. Hadn't done amazing in AA this year, but still showed enough for the Rockies to end up calling him up. It is very interesting to see a hitting prospect get called up straight from AA, but obviously the Rockies believe in him and thought that he was ready for it. Now, Amador is very good defensively. I think that's where a lot of his value comes from. I think he's going to end up being a plus defender in this league. He's a good contact guy, good speed guy, and I think that overall he's going to be a very solid player. I think honestly, he reminds me a little bit of Jose Reyes, who, of course, the former Rocky. I think Reyes at his peak is going to be a way better player than Amador was, but I still think Amador reminds me a little bit of Jose Reyes in just kind of the way of being a switch-hitting middle infielder who has a lot of speed and good contact ability, good defense as well. So I think this guy's going to be a big part of the Rockies' future, and the Rockies haven't had a lot to like within the future within this organization the past few years now. But I mean, I had a whole segment on them. I believe it was on Thursday about Chris Bryant and how bad that contract is for the organization and how much of a hole it puts them in. So of course, there's that things that still not perfect there, but at the same time, if you're a Rockies fan, there is still something to like here. There's still a lot of good pieces. You, of course, now are going to have a middle infield, hopefully for the next 5 to 10 years, of Amador and Tovar. Tovar's already been extended. I would not be surprised to see Amador get extended. And I think that overall, that's exciting. Both are very exciting, dynamic middle infield prospects who can hit the ball well and play great defense. And after that, outside of him, there's also a lot of other players that are big parts of this Rockies future. You, of course, have on the prospect list Chase Dollander, the 9th overall pick from last year's draft, a starting pitching prospect that I love. I think is going to be a big part of some team's future rotation. It's to be interesting to see how he does work out in Coors. Obviously, that not being a pitcher-friendly ballpark, so that'll be interesting to see. But I still like Dollander a lot. Yanikel Fernandez. I apologize if I pronounced that name wrong, but another guy in the Hartford Yard Goats, a sweet swinging lefty outfielder who's 21, should be up by the end of this year or the start of next year. I think also is a really high prospect and is going to be a big part of this Rocky future. Jordan Beck, who's already been called up by the Rockies, hasn't done great this year, but I think brings a lot of power to the table with this Rockies team and could be a big part of their future. Sterling Thompson, another power-hitting outfielder that I think is going to bring a lot there, 6'3", 200. You also have Zach Veen, who I love. Zach Veen was one of my prospect crushes coming out of the draft whenever he got drafted a few years ago. I think he has light tower power, and he hasn't really hit as great as I figured in the minor leagues, but I still believe in him. I still think he's going to end up being a good prospect. So, you think about this Rockies organization, the past few years, you kind of think of dysfunction. But you look at this future core, you look at the amount of good, solid players that are coming through these ranks and these prospects that are developing. You get excited if you're a Rockies fan. You get excited if you look at what the future brings for this team. You already have some players on the MLB roster, like a Ryan McMahon. Will he be here past the trade deadline? That'll be interesting to see, but overall, he's still a great player. So I think if you're a Rockies fan, you're much happier than you would be in the past. You have a lot of prospects coming up. I think Amador is just the start of this team, and overall brings a lot of value and is going to end up being a really good prospect for this team, a really good piece of this team. And yeah, I'm really excited to watch him. I think he is a dynamic talent. I think he's really, really good. And again, this Rockies team, while it isn't amazing, there are pieces here that are beginning to get filled out, and you're beginning to see, the fruits of their labor of being so horrible. You're gonna you have a top 3 draft pick this year already. You can get a Charlie Condon, a Travis Bazanza if they fall. Jack Coglione is someone that is projected to go to you in most mock drafts, and I think would absolutely be a great pick. Chase Burns is also available. Nick Kurtz, J.J. Weatherholt. So you can draft another dynamic talent. Sorry about turning my mic off there. I had a cough. I've been talking a lot, so I apologize about that. But yeah, you draft another dynamic talent to add to this great prospect ranking, this great organization. So if I'm a Rockies fan, I'm very excited about where this future is going. And, I didn't really think I'd ever say that about the Rockies. But hey, there's a lot going on with this team right now. a lot of positive things. And yeah, are they gonna be good right away? No, but it's gonna take some time. But in 2 to 3 years, if they're competitive again, I wouldn't be surprised. And look, as much as they've thrown around money and it hasn't been great with the Chris Bryant signing, at least they've shown they're willing to throw around money. And Colorado's a beautiful state. They got a beautiful ballpark. If you're a hitter, you can hit at least probably 10 more home runs than you would at any other ballpark. So they could sign some big-time free agents in the future. Not sure if they exactly want to go to the Rockies organization, but hey, they at least are willing to spend money. So there are some positive times coming right now for this Rockies team. And I think that overall, if you're a Rockies fan, you should be excited. You have the right to be excited. And I think that things are going in the right direction finally for this organization after so many years of just incompetent people running the ship and, not great things happening with you guys. So yeah, that is my fourth segment here talking about the Rockies and Adel Amador, one of their top prospects, being called up from the minor leagues. We'll be going into our fifth and final segment, which is going to be talking about the notable games from the weekend, recapping the series of the Mets and Phillies in London, and then the Yankees and Dodgers series as well. So yeah, we'll be going over that, and we'll see you after the break. So thanks, and bye. And we're back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our fifth and final segment, which is going to be recapping some notable series from over the weekend of baseball. Now, of course, these were my fourth and fifth segments of my show on Friday, so it's only right to go over them. Now, of course, there were some pretty significant series going on over the weekend, both involving New York, which is interesting. But yeah, so first off, we had the Mets and Phillies going to London for the international series of this year. Again, I thought it was a great pick for these two teams doing it. And yeah, as a Mets fan, just saying, you can see the jerseys back there, that one and that one. I was very excited to watch my team in London. I knew they probably wouldn't win, but I was still excited to see it and be a part of the event. So going over the first game here, in the bottom of the first, we had Starling Marte open up the scoring for the Mets, making it 1-0. Bryce Harper would tie up the game with his 15th home run of the year. Man, he has had an amazing season, even after moving to first base, tying up the game at 1-1. Then the doors will blow off in the top of the fourth with a Edmundo Sosa RBI single, a Whit Merrifield 3-run home run, and a Kyle Schwarber RBI single to make it 6-1. Nothing notable else would happen as the Phillies would end up winning 7-2. Now, a really good win by the Phillies there. Mets got off to a nice start with Marte hitting that double, but they would capitalize off some interesting defensive plays from Starling Marte and Brandon Nimmo, as both would misplace some balls in the outfield. Apparently they couldn't see it because of the lighting in London and they weren't used to the dimensions. So I'd give them a little bit of slack, but still they should have made those plays and might have cost us the game. But also, Minaya didn't throw a great pitch to Merrifield, giving up that 3-run home run. So I think that overall it was kind of a team effort of losing that game. And yeah, Ranger Suarez had another amazing start, going 5 2/3 innings, only giving up 2 runs, striking out 6, only walking 1. Continuing his claim for the Cy Young as the Cy Young favorite for this year. So really strong start by Suarez there and a really good. Continuing now with the second game of the series, which was much more exciting. we have in the bottom of the first Alec Boehm grounding into double play, which would end up scoring 1 run, make it 1-0 Phillies. So obviously still got a run in, but lost opportunity, I'd say, with the bases loaded. Bottom of the fourth, the Phillies would score 2 from a Edmundo Sosa RBI double and a Whit Merrifield RBI single to make it 3-0. Top of the sixth, the Mets would tie it up with a really nice inning from their stars with a Brandon Nimmo double and a JD Martinez RBI single to make it 3-3. A David Dahl, yes, you heard that right, a David Dahl home run in 2024 would make it 4-3 Phillies. That would give them the lead late in the game, of course, but the Mets would signal right back in the top of the ninth with a Mark Vientos RBI single to tie it up. Pete Alonso would get hit by a pitch to make it 5-4, and a pass ball by JT Realmuto would make it 6-4 after Jose Iglesias would score, and the Mets would take advantage of the misplaying by Jose Alvarado and the defense of the Phillies in that inning, making it 6-4. Bottom of the ninth, the Phillies would make it interesting as they would have the bases loaded, and Alec Boehm would walk in a run to make it 6-5. But a crazy double play as Nick Castellanos in the end of the game would hit a dribbler at home plate. Luis Torrens, the backup catcher filling in for Tomas Nido in that role, would step on home plate and throw out Castellanos at first base with a great play, and would end the game on a crazy double play. So a great win by the Mets, a great come-behind win against a really, really great Phillies team. So a really good job by the Mets, and just overall, yeah, I mean, it was really fantastic by them, and they ended up having a great game and a great comeback win. Luis Torrens, by the way, has done such an amazing job for this Mets team. You know, they DFA'd Omar Narvaez and got in Torrens after Omar just did not hit the ball with this team. And he has just been a spark plug, hitting 2 home runs in a game against the Nationals, now making this great double play that might have won us the game. So he's been a great addition to this team. But overall, yeah, it was a really solid win by the Mets and was doing a really good job there. Look, they won 2 out of 4 against the Diamondbacks, swept the Nationals, which, so that got them to be 5 out of 7. And now they're 6 out of 8. So, I mean, I don't know what I'm talking about. That was wrong, I believe. But, yeah, they're doing really well in these past few games. And could they be going on a run? We'll see. Their schedule right now is pretty much really easy. After this, they're playing the Padres and the Marlins coming up. So, they should be able to at least compete in those games against the Padres and probably win against the Marlins. So, looking at this Mets team, they still have a lot of talent. They could creep up, and we'll have to see. But overall, I had a great time watching these games. Again, it was a really good event. It was very fun. And like I said before on my show, if it makes one person in London a baseball fan, it's done its job. And yeah, it was a great event over there. This NL East is going to be very interesting to watch for the rest of the season. You have, of course, the Phillies, who have the best record in baseball so far. The Braves, who have dealt with a lot of injuries and are not looking like the Braves of the past. The Nationals, who have a lot of young talent coming up. The Mets, who are just so streaky, and the Marlins, who are horrible. So it's going to be very interesting to watch this division as the season goes on and as everything does continue. So yeah, should be very interesting to see and very excited to watch. So we, of course, now are having another notable series from over the weekend, the Yankees and the Dodgers. So this is a notable series because it's just simply put, the Yankees and the Dodgers. Both these two teams are very significant organizations in all of sports, 2 of the most famous. And whenever these two teams link up, especially now with how much star power the Yankees have added, how much star power the Dodgers have added, it is going to be an event, and looked like it was sold out for all 3 of those games in the Bronx. Dodgers fans also did a very good job of coming to the Bronx and supporting their team, so props to them. First game was pretty much a blowout, with the Dodgers winning 11-3 after a not great outing from Nestor Cortez, who went 5. Actually, it wasn't that bad. I apologize. 5 and a third innings, giving up 4 runs, but Tommy Kahnle and Dennis Santana would be horrible out of the bullpen, making it just out of reach for the Yankees, and would end up losing this game for them, making it 11-3 Dodgers. So that wasn't great there. But after that, the Yankees on Sunday would try to regroup versus them, and it would end up being a much more competitive game. You would have the bottom of the third, as Waldo Guerrero would end up hitting a solo home run to make it 1-0. He was filling in for Anthony Rizzo at first base, who was really, really struggled. I don't know what's going to happen with Rizzo, honestly. It's looking like he might be at the end of his his career with the Yankees, maybe even baseball. He just looks done at this point. He has been really, really bad, so that will be an interesting thing to follow for the rest of the year. Aaron Judge has been amazing, hit an RBI double. Mookie Betts would tie it up in the 5th, making it 2-2. A Teoscar Hernandez solo home run would make it 3-2 Dodgers. His 16th of the year was amazing overall with this series, making it 3-2. And then a very interesting thing here in the bottom of the 6th, when Trent Grisham up with 2 men on base, the entire Yankees crowd was chanting, "We want Soto," to pinch hit for him, and Trent Grisham would then hit a 3-run home run and would shut them up. So that was a really fun thing to watch, and it was a very, very interesting storyline to see. So yeah, that was interesting, and kind of feel bad for Trent Grisham, but made up for it, and I'm sure we'll never have that chant again for Yankees fans. Will Smith would end up making it 5-4 with the sacrifice fly in the top of the 8th. Bottom of the 8th, though, Aaron Judge would give the Yankees the insurance they need with his 24th home run of the year already, making it 6-4. Dodgers would threaten in the 9th, but the Yankees would end up winning this game 6-4. So good, solid win by the Yankees right there. Nice job with them, and would end up salvaging the last game of the series. I didn't even talk about the first game of the series for some reason, so that's my fault. But in this one, you, of course, had the Dodgers winning 2-1 with a 0-0 score until the 11th, when Teoscar Hernandez would hit an RBI double, making it 2-0. And then an Aaron Judge RBI single would make it 2-1. So the Dodgers would end up winning this game 2-1. Overall, I think the main question we asked when we watched this game is, are we going to see this again in October? Is this going to be a World Series preview? I'd say the Yankees right now are the favorites in the AL. I don't think the Dodgers are in the NL. I think that goes to the Phillies, but I'd probably say they're 2nd or 3rd. And yeah, it's just always a fun time when these two organizations meet. 2 of the most historic teams in all of sports, 2 of the most famous teams in all of sports, 2 great fan bases, 2 teams with a lot of star power. I mean, you have Ohtani, Freeman, Betts, Soto, Judge. Cole is hurt, but still a part of these teams. So a lot of star power here. Just a great baseball, and I had a lot of fun watching it. And yeah, it was a great time, and it was a great game. So that was good over there. Will be interesting to see what does happen with Juan Soto and the Yankees over this year, and seeing if he does end up coming back. We'll have to see. We'll see what the effect is if he doesn't, and if he does end up on the injured list. But yeah, it was a very fun game to watch, and overall, both these games with the Yankees and the Dodgers and the Mets and the Phillies were great spectacles for baseball. It was a great weekend to be a baseball fan. I loved flipping through these games, and had a great time. And yeah, it was just a great weekend to watch some baseball. So that's our show for today, guys. I want to thank you so much for watching. Remember to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to not only get notified when I upload, but when all the other great content creators on this channel do. Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. It's a beautiful day outside. Enjoy it. Have a great day, and I'll see you what baseball throws at us tomorrow. Thanks, guys, and bye.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.